Love chatting to my mate, my next guest, Leith Van Onselen, Chief Economist at the MB Fund and MB Super, co-founder of macrobusiness.com.au. It's where you go for common sense economic news. We'll come back to this issue in a moment or two. I've got callers everywhere, but for now, Mr. Van Onselen, are you well?
I'm good, thanks, Luke. How about yourself?
Just fine, mate, just fine. I was reading your work yesterday, and perhaps we should start here, about Australian housing affordability, because we've got some numbers here.
Yeah, that's right, mate. So at the end of last year, CoreLogic, they're now called Cotality, they released a report on Australia's housing affordability. This is both to purchase homes and also to rent homes. And it showed that basically housing affordability was the worst on record as measured by pretty much every metric. So if you look at house prices relative to income, the percentage of income spent on mortgages, the number of years taken to save deposit, the percentage of income required to rent the median priced home, they're all tracking pretty much at their record levels. And this week we got some data from Cotality that showed that Australian house prices just have soared over the first 7 months of this year. They're now at all-time highs, again, a new fresh all-time highs. And according to them, the median home value across Australia's capital cities is about $927,000. So that's for every single unit, house, everywhere across the country. And that's the median value, not the average. And unfortunately, Sydney and Brisbane, and I know I'm speaking to this audience, are the two most expensive housing markets in the nation. So we always know New Sydney was, but now Brisbane has shot up to number 2. They're now the second most expensive. So the median home in Sydney now is, $1,229,000 roughly, and Brisbane's is $935,000 roughly, and that's following growth of about 35% for Sydney since over the last 5 years, and about 76% for Brisbane.
Jeez.
And Cotality, they released a warning a few weeks back, and they reckon that house prices could rise by as much as 13% by the end of next year. So that's on top of, obviously, record levels. We've got record low affordability. And they warn that the median value of Australian homes could rise from 8 times incomes at the end of last year to 8.4 times. And for Sydney, it'll rise from about 9.8 times incomes to 10.3. And for Brisbane, from 8.2 times income at the end of last year to 8.7 at the end of next year. So, with interest rates projected to fall, that's just going to put upward pressure on home values. We've also got, lots of stimulatory policy from the from the federal and state government. So at the start of next year, the Albanese government's going to release their 5% deposit scheme for first home buyers, which basically is going to guarantee 15% of all first home buyer mortgages. And that's just going to put more upward pressure on home values. They've increased their shared equity scheme. They've done a whole bunch of stuff around lending. The Queensland state government's also introduced a generous shared equity scheme. And the upshot of this, Luke, is that prices are just going to keep rising and it's going to become more expensive. And to add further insult to injury, Cotality's report this week also warned that rental vacancy rates are now falling again, and they've fallen down to 1.7% nationally, which is just above their record low. And rents have also started to rise again. And they said that rents have gone up 43% over the last 5 years.
Gosh.
Which is forcing the typical tenant in Australia, so this is the median tenant, to pay more than $10,000 extra every year on rent than they were 5 years ago. So I guess the bottom line here, mate, is that, and a lot of that, decline in the rental vacancy rate and also the re-acceleration of rents must have something to do with the apparent resurgence in net overseas migration. You've got more people coming in again, which means they need more rental housing. So the bottom line, mate, is housing affordability, both the purchase and rent, is set to worsen, unfortunately.
Yes, it's awful. It just continues. I've got to ask you, this week, do we have a champion or a clown of the week?
Unfortunately, it's another clown. So I've got the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. I've got a joint clown and the E-Safety Commissioner.
Oh, wow.
Julie Inman Grant.
Hang on, mate. The music. I'll just go back to the point that Leith has what we like to now call joint clowns. Who are they?
So it's the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, and the E-Safety Karen Commissioner, Julie Inman Grant.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm calling them clowns is that, we've got this social media ban for under 16s that's scheduled to come into effect at the end of December. And previously the government had said that they weren't going to include YouTube in there. And look, I'll be honest, I consider YouTube the greatest learning tool that we have. And my 14-year-old daughter uses YouTube for everything, right? She's taught herself how to crochet. She taught herself all these art stuff. She uses it to solve maths problems and anything she needs to fix her computer, everything. It's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
She learns all this sort of stuff.
Yep.
And these clowns in government. So I think the problem we've got here, Luke, is that since the pandemic, our governments have become more intrusive in our lives. They want to micromanage our lives.
Spot on.
They're basically taking away our freedoms bit by bit. And this week, the clown Labor government said that they're going to ban YouTube for under 16s. And Anthony Albanese cited on Insiders last week, he said that up to 4 in 10 young people under the age of 16 who've engaged with YouTube have been harmed by that engagement. And this is advice from the e-safety commissar, which I'm going to call commissar because this is like communist stuff. And hilariously, Sky News obtained the survey, which these claims are based on, actually showed that YouTube was one of the safest platforms.
Yes.
And it was actually safer than text messages.
Yes.
Right? So,
Yeah.
The question here is, if they do this, Australia will have among the most strictest crackdown on digital platforms anywhere in the world. And to make matters worse, Luke, the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, says he wants to take Australia's draconian media ban global. He's going to lobby the UN for other countries to follow Australia's lead. So he wants to take draconian regulatory overreach international and make us basically a nation of e-Karens. And, mate, I'll be quite honest with you. My daughter is not going to be observing these rules. I'll be giving her my account to log into. And I'm quite frankly sick to death of governments interfering in our daily lives. They need to get back to do the basics of government, which is just efficient taxation, service delivery, that sort of thing, health and education and all those sorts of things. And possibly the worst part of this, Luke, I could also put the Liberal Party as clowns because the Liberal Party backs this and it goes against their modus operandi.
It does.
Liberal Party's Our Beliefs Manifesto, which I pulled off their website, explicitly says that they believe in the inalienable rights and freedoms of all peoples and work towards a lean government that minimises interference in our daily lives. Yet here we have an act which basically they want to micromanage our lives and basically bring in these draconian rules. And no wonder trust in our policymakers and institutions is an all-time low. Politicians need to get out of the way and let us live our lives. We decide what we want to do. They should not be telling us what we should do in these sorts of things.
Spot on. By the way, our listener Richard says that there's 2 clowns of the week. That makes it a circus. Not a bad point. Thank you, mate. Macrobusiness.com.au. I'll talk to you in a week's time.
Yeah, cheers, Luke.
Good on you, Leith Van Onselen.
Hi, I'm Conrad.